Hi everyone, Dave here. Hope you're having a nice day so far. This is my first day out of the house for 8 days. Just heading, after the surgery, just heading to a long weekend in a cottage in Worcestershire, which should be nice. Not really going to be able to get out and about much still, because I'm still struggling a bit, but it'll be a nice change of environment. But I am starting to feel better, and the pain's probably about 20% better again today, so that's good, positive improvement. So this video is about freedom of speech. There are, in this era in which we live, threats to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom itself, and democracy everywhere. You don't have to look hard to you don't need to look hard to find them. They are everywhere. And the latest example was the protest group, the climate activist protest movement, Extinction Rebellion, blockading the printing presses of and preventing a number of newspapers, including the Sun, the Mail, the Times, and I think a couple of others as well, from leaving the printing presses and being distributed to supermarkets and newsagents, with the intended consequence of people not being able to buy their paper of choice this morning, which is exactly what has happened. I mean, first of all, how selfish is that? You're depriving somebody of the opportunity to pay for a publication that they want to read under their own volition. So that's what happened last night, and millions of people across the country haven't been able to read their paper with their morning coffee this morning. Now, Extinction Rebellion, a self-styled anti-fascist group, progressive group and liberal group, so many words such as these are being hollowed out and subverted by left-wing, communist, fascist groups, because make no mistake, that's what they are. I'll include the likes of Black Lives Matter and ANTIFA in that as well. A group that genuinely is altruistic and liberal is not one that prevents, that suppresses information and prevents other people from hearing opinion that they want to hear. That is not the sign of a healthy protest movement. Yet that's exactly what's happened in this instance, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And I do strongly believe anybody who is a true libertarian and an advocate of free speech is disgusted and appalled at the antics of these so-called liberal protest movements such as Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Extinction Rebellion, because they're anything but liberal. They are anti-liberal and they are fascist. They exist to stifle free speech. They exist because they have a thirst for power, and they'll stop at nothing until they get that power, and God help us. Which is why it's so important now that the silent majority who's been too quiet for too long, and I know I speak on behalf of tens of millions of people even just in this country with this video, it's so important that we call out the intolerance, that the people who are tolerant, who are libertarians, and who do cherish freedom of expression and diversity of opinion, that we call out the intolerance. And when I say call out the intolerance, I'm not saying that they can't have a view. They can, of course, even if that view is underpinned by a stunning lack of self-awareness and by a quite shocking, often ignorance, arrogance, aggression and vitriol. It's important that we highlight these people, these individuals and these protest groups and movements for what they are. That we highlight how duplicitous they are, how manipulative they are, and how hell-bent they are on gaining control over people's lives. It's so important that we do this. We are living in dangerous and perilous times, and if we're not careful, and if we continue to tolerate in a way that involves us not holding these people to account, then we're not doing ourselves any favours at all. We need to start speaking up and holding these people to account. It was Mark Twain who said, history does not repeat, but it does rhyme. And I can see that, because I see with the antics of the three protest groups that I've already mentioned, together with a large kind of like student activism as well, again based on nothing in particular, moronic groupthink and a need to belong to something because they're too lazy to find the meaning in their own lives and to define their own values. So it's easier to attach to the values of a group without even examining what those values are. It's eerily reminiscent, the actions and the behaviours of these groups, of Mao's Cultural Revolution in China in the 1950s, 60s and 70s. And for anybody who doesn't know about Mao Zedong, came to power in 1949 and ruled over China with an iron fist, with a complete and utter unmitigated terror over all of the 600 million people in China at that time, resulting in the deaths of tens of millions of his own people through execution, terror and famine and concentration camps. In order for him to attain that level of authoritarianism and power, he needed to re-educate people by ensuring everybody thought in the same way. And the Cultural Revolution spanned a number of years and entailed Mao's foot soldiers and secret police rampaging through the country, through the cities, and tearing down statues, monuments, any relics of a bygone age that was perhaps looked upon as liberal, more free thinking, simply because it didn't correlate with the Maoist, communist state of mind and ideology. So basically destroying history in order to be able to control the present, which he did do, and unleashed hell on earth in that country in China. Can anyone seriously say that's not what we've seen this summer with the Black Lives Matter protests, the tearing down of statues, the attempts to rewrite history? The one other aspect of the the Maoist Cultural Revolution was the guilty parties, whether they were capitalists, landowners, intellectuals, whoever they were, anyone who had the ability to think for themselves, basically. And incidentally, in times like these, anybody who has the ability to think for themselves is putting themselves in more danger than those who are attached to a group thing. Anyway, they would find the landowners, the capitalists, the intellectuals, the free thinkers, the writers, the creators, and they will be publicly shamed in front of the baying mob of villages or townships, in front of thousands of people, and Mao's foot soldiers would drum into them repeatedly slogans to promote the communist regime and the communist way of thinking, and then they'd either send them to a re-education camp or they would kill them. It's what we're seeing now, particularly in the US, but also as well to some extent in other parts of the world and in the UK as well. Exactly the same thing, as well as tearing down the statues, rewriting history and suppressing any enlightened and varied discussion of our society's history. We're seeing people getting set upon by throngs, by masses of indoctrinated, mainly young people, in groups such as Black Lives Matter and ANTIFA, and getting shouted at by these robots who are just spouting these slogans over and over and over and over again in the name of a group that they've attached themselves to, yet they don't know why. It is absolutely terrifying. But here's the thing, anyone who's educated and who can think for themselves, all we have to do is expose them for who they are. We have better intentions, we have more altruistic intentions, but crucially, we have the ability to be able to conceive of an argument, to defend the position, and to expose people for who they really are. So Mark Twain, as I said before, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I think it's rhyming very neatly at the moment. And the poem, the history is reciting to us, is one of danger, looming tyranny. So let's hold these people to account, because they are dark forces. They're devils disguised as angels. We have to make sure, under no circumstances at all, that they get close, even remotely, to getting into positions of power. Because if they do, they will unleash hell on earth.